Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm going to dive into today's topic right away. And if you saw the title of the video, we're talking about the manosphere problem as is described by certain individuals out there. And I wanted to kind of give my take on it. And I'm going to give a breakdown of what the problem actually, so far as people have been able to describe, actually is, and what I've observed concerning this. And really, it kind of comes down to this: it's when you're dealing with the manosphere, you're dealing with how much of it is going to be focused on, I guess, external blame towards problems and issues that we've noticed with modern day culture and society, with the hookup culture, with the just the rampant hedonism going on out there, and how much of the external blame we're shifting out there towards, in particular, men towards women, versus the internal development side of it, and how much of a balance between the two. Because I can see the point of why people would say to some degree that it is slinging hate to begin to really focus on pointing a lot of these issues and problems out with the way that the hookup culture and everything has affected everything, that has basically created a version of hypergamy, I would say, that is out of touch with reality. Because to some degree, hypergamy is a natural state with women, just as men are choosy about certain things. There's a natural state of hypergamy with women where they're going to use that in the selection of men. Now, to some degree, it could be easily argued that in hookup culture today, with the promiscuity, the sleeping around, everything that's happening, it's created a situation where there's an unrealistic expectation with the hypergamy, to where it's become so inflated and out of touch with reality that men tend to get very, very frustrated and even angry about it. People call it the red pill rage. And I would even argue to some degree that if you're that angry about it, maybe you're not completely red pill. You might even be a bit blue pill, because red pill has a measure and degree of, in my opinion, self-control. And with self-control, that means we can identify that problem with the situation without being so emotional, angry, and upset that we're screaming and yelling at women, calling them names, or losing our cool completely over it. We can identify what the problem is and either find if there's a way to fix it, which I don't really think there is necessarily a way to fix that, other than walking away and doing whatever we have to avoid it, and only ever getting involved with somebody if it fits within the parameters of healthy boundaries, which that's a real crapshoot these days. A real crapshoot. Chances are that probably won't work. If you've seen me cover how relationships are going in other videos, it's a very good idea, generally speaking, to avoid almost all relationships with women unless you are certain they are not thinking along these lines. Because if you're somebody who has been wrapped up in the hookup culture, and you're somebody who's been wrapped up in all of this stuff, even if you have a vague concept of faithfulness and fidelity, it's very vague. I mean, it's not even something that you're probably going to hold to. Now, there are women that obviously might still hold to this. And for those of you, that's great. We absolutely need women that are going to hold to this. But generally speaking, most people that are wrapped up in this are not even really aware. And the men that become aware of what's going on out there have to be able to get to a point to where there's enough internal development going on to where they can identify the problem, be objective, be realistic, and not be overly angry, because to some degree that is blue pill in and of itself. I realize that that might seem a bit controversial to say, but I don't really care, because if you're losing your cool around women over this sort of thing and basically getting angry either at regular hypergamy or the inflated sense of hypergamy, we need self-control on our end. We as men need to have that internal development happening to the point that we carry that measure of self-control that we should have. And we should be developing that, nurturing that, and nurturing the development of ourselves, so that we're not particularly worried about whether or not somebody's going to come into our life. But that just becomes icing on the cake if that person actually turns out to be a good fit and it actually turns out to work out. That's just icing on the cake. Our life is not centered around that. It welcomes it if it's open. And whether or not that has nothing to do with in regards to whether there's a chance of that actually happening. We just mentioned that. I just mentioned that before earlier in the video, and I've done other videos covering that. You can go back and certainly watch those, talking about the reality of the statistics of what's going on out there and whether or not you're even going to find somebody. Some people put the numbers as low as 7% of women out there that have enough of a sense of fidelity, honesty, faithfulness, the things that really need to be comprised in a relationship, that look for character as one of the major features in a guy that they're going to appreciate, that they think the number is as low as 7%. And so you're welcome to go watch other videos about that I put up, or even other people have done, if you really want to focus on that. But I think a lot of the thing that we have to think about is, and I try to do this here even on the channel, you have to balance how much external blame you're going to be giving versus internal development, because if it gets too lopsided and you get too far into the external blame, you just get to a point where you are basically permanently angry and pissed off at the other side, to the point to where your logic and your reason, your sanity just gets completely infected by it on the reverse end of it. And you can't seem to get past it. It's almost like having an ex that you somehow can't get over. And that's absolutely not the place that we want to be mentally, just in a spiritual sense. Even, we don't want to be in a place like that. So it is a balance. It is a very intricate dance between the two, because when you identify what's wrong, which is absolutely important, you have to then come up with an action plan on how you're going to shift your life to make your life the best version and the best well-developed version for yourself, and sidestep the landmines that you've identified. And it's a really interesting problem, in the sense that I've encountered so many guys that get so incredibly angry about this sort of thing. They just get so angry to the point to where the only comments they ever want to make have nothing to do with internal growth, change, and development. And that's not even so much saying that everybody that's doing that is doing it not just because they're wrong, but it's because we need that. Identifying what's wrong is part of it, but it can only be part of it. If every video, and this is a challenge to the men, do not just watch videos complaining about what's going wrong out there, because you get a very, very lopsided, twisted view where you don't begin to develop yourself internally. Once you've identified, as I mentioned before, the landmines that are out there, what is your plan to sidestep those? Once you've identified the landmines and the problems in our society, the way our government is running things, what plans and what's your action plan to step around that and create something that is a better life for yourself? Connecting with people that are like-minded, but will also challenge you, because we don't need an echo chamber sometimes. Sometimes we need people that will, with logic and reason, challenge what we're saying. That'll say, yeah, I understand that you're mad about hypergamy. I get it. But some parts of hypergamy you can't do anything about. Some of it is realistic. They were going to want a guy that is not obese. They're going to want a guy that has at least some form of, is gainfully employed in some way. I mean, there's realistic levels of expectations from both men and women. And I realize that the hookup culture and a lot of the extremism and the extreme hedonism and promiscuity that's been going on around out there has created this false sense of, well, I deserve a guy that makes $5 million a year and, looks like a supermodel, has no baggage and no history whatsoever, basically like he came off of an assembly line somewhere. And I want a guy like that, but I've got multiple baby daddies, lots of problems, lots of issues, and I'm getting older and older and older. That's kind of what's been going on out there. I can't tell you how many times I come on and I've had videos or different clips or other stuff sent to me by other guys where I'm looking at stuff going, good night, really some of the expectations. And these are women that are to some degree on the fringe. Many women are not quite on the fringe as this. They're not expecting that level of insanity, but it does highlight the the extreme level of ridiculous expectations and the way we are headed with that. So I'm not going to go on too much further with this, but it is something, is certainly food for thought with what our balance is with that. And it's certainly a challenge for each one of us. It isn't just taking in the bad news, and it isn't just our emotions about that. We need to get to a point where we're past that, where we've identified, as I said, the landmines and the problems, and then we begin to map out in our own lives, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it to where we grow enough to where we're not mad? We know about the problem, but we're not having an emotional breakdown over it. We need that kind of growth. And for those of you that are watching this, I'm curious as to your opinions on this. Please jump into the comments and let me know what you think. For the women that are watching this, that are absolutely opposed to the hookup culture, that are opposed to a lot of what's going on out there, I'm glad that you're supporting sanity. So definitely good to have you around too. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Have a great day.